So getting into our conversation for this next hour, and we have a guest in the studio who is very many things, but he majorly is a spoken word artist. Spoken wordist. Artist, yeah. Spoken word.
Yeah.
Willie Oeba is right here. Mike writes. Action. Willie, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am both happy to be here and here to be happy. Yeah, nice. How are you?
No wasting a second. The poetry starts. I know, writing.
Ameanza.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to start you off.
Okay.
By making you happy.
Okay.
With the following words.
You kept pressure. I mean, the way he started. Yes. And those were his words. But these ones are words still from Africa, an African proverb widely cited across West Africa. And it says, when the music changes, so does the dance.
Wow. Wow.
Obviously talking about, people are shifting. The leadership has to as well. But I'm curious as to how you translate that. When the music changes, so does the dance.
Wow. When the music changes, so does... I translate that as life transitions, like when you go to Rome, do as the Romans. So with life comes with so many dynamics, and it keeps changing. And with the context of constitutionalism, they say the constitution is a living document, so it has to be tailored with the, for example, the Bible and poetry and everything. We say poets are modern day prophets. The Bible was written very many years ago, but right now he's writing the Bible right now. So the poets are writing it right now as it goes. So I think for me is when things change, like you have to conform to some extent.
Yeah, you have to read the room as well.
You have to read the room.
I feel like that doesn't happen often, but yeah, Mario,
that's the thing. That's the thing, eh?
Yeah.
Read the room.
Read the room.
They call it. So I feel like it's either the power of the pen or the gift of the gab, depending on whether it's positive or negative.
True.
Some people, when you say, the power of the pen, it's like viva. When someone tells you have the gift of the gab, right?
You don't know if they're
you're not really quite sure.
Yeah.
When did you know you had the power of the pen? Because Yako, we are very clear.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. So I started spoken word 2004. I was in class 4. I was doing poetry for performance purpose, who is the persona for music festivals. And then from there, so we...
Wait, adjudicators, Nana,
yes,
in front of you
yes.
is Willie Oeba ready to present a poem entitled
I Am My Mother's Baby. I did that till like that was the Nationals. Yeah, that was the one.
I Am My Mother's Baby.
Yeah, I took it to the Nationals in 2004. Yeah. Then I kept on. And then high school, when I went to high school, there was no one to write for me the pieces. So I started writing for myself under class 1016J. So it was hip hop and on composition and public speaking.
Class 10,
then
16.
after that, in 2014, now I started spoken word. So I started spoken word professionally in 2014. This is my 11th year. Yeah.
Your 11th year.
What is spoken word?
Right.
Spoken word is poetry for performance. And poetry is the act of using lyricism, like using words lyrically. So there is a difference between spoken word and rap, because both of them are poetry. And rap is rhythm and poetry, but spoken word is poetry without the rhythm. So it's rap minus the rhythm. But spoken word uses so many metaphors and puns and gestures, so you have to be there, and the voice and all that. Yeah. So spoken word is majorly for performance purposes. But we have rap that doesn't use poetry. So poetry, it's a very murky area, because now poetry is the use of words lyrically. Yeah. But sometimes we have rappers who do not use poetry. Yeah. But
so was Maya Angelou a spoken word artist?
Depending on the way you look at it. Depending on the way you look at it. So she was both a poet and a spoken word artist. So I'm both a poet and a spoken word artist, because I use poetry, but when I write it, it's poetry, but when I perform it, then it becomes spoken word. Yeah.
When we were beginning the show today, Mariam reflected on something, saying, you can choose to write about anything, love and romance. But you've chosen to write about conscious issues,
Yeah.
issues that affect. First, maybe I'm assuming you've never written a love poem. But, I mean,
They have
they have to be there. Okay?
Yeah.
Part of
maybe
it,
it's the prolific. How many?
harmony in love.
Romantic poems versus.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what, if the romantic in me is just like, see, atusomea basi. But we're not here for that today. Atatusomea.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's largely about the issues happening around us.
Yeah.
Has that always been something that you've been convinced to do and convicted to do? Has that always kind of informed your spoken word?
So I started writing poetry in 2014, as I said. I started writing love pieces. Love is very good, by the way. A heart that is broken is a heart that has been loved. So a heartbreak has made poets since 2014. So, but in 2017, 21st December, that's my mom's birthday. I'm a proud Nax vegan. I forgot to say that. And I was going into town to pick a cake for her birthday, and I have dreadlocks. And baby locks, the ugliest faces of dreadlocks are baby locks.
Yeah.
And I was almost shot for mistaken identity because there's a gang in Nakuru dubbed Confirm Gang, the ones that send you a text message, I've sent you money, please send it back. And during that time, there were very stringent measures, so they started like mugging people in the streets. And I looked like one of them because I had sweatpants, a t-shirt, baby locks, I had 2 phones. And there were like 2 policemen, one was like notably drunk, and the other one was in uniform. So they were looking at a picture in a phone, and they were looking at me. And I ticked all the boxes, like stereotypes. And the one who was like drunk, notably drunk, was very aggressive. And they cocked a gun and they put it on my head. And they say, when a gun is put on your head at that moment, your whole life flashes in front of your eyes. And if they don't kill you yet, then you live as one who has nothing to lose. So from that point, I reflected on my life. I healed from that. But now I started writing about social justice. I wrote an album dubbed Dear God in 2019 after that incident that has like substrate specific like letters to different people like Dear Mr. President, Dear Mr. Deputy President. In one of those pieces I say, Dear Mr. President, do you know the leaders of tomorrow are dying today? And kwa nchi hata Chief Justice and a cry for justice. The law is very clear, your conscience is not. So I wrote that album from then. So I started writing from that point. Yeah, I started writing about social justice. Because if we don't write, then what happens to people who cannot hold a pen? So I was in that moment. It happened to me, I experienced it, but I don't write from a point of bitterness. So I have to master first so that I don't bleed on people that did not cut me. But I started writing after that incident on social justice. So I find myself like writing more on social justice and on social change because poetry, I write from a point of resonance. So I resonate with, I write from my own experiences and from other people's experiences in a bid to bridge the gap between what is real and what is possible and to expand whose stories gets told via like spoken word, yeah.
Could you say that after writing that, the Dear Mr. President, and the kind of response that it got, you got into that space where now you are interacting more and more with people who've gone through social injustice.
Yeah.
And therefore you just you found yourself actually getting more content.
Yeah.
And more ways in which you could tell that story.
Yeah.
And so what other stories have you come across since then?
I've come across stories of police brutality. I've come across stories of, so first of all, I believe in human rights and human dignity. Also, my story is heavily pegged on like gender mainstreaming. And because I've been raised by my mom, and I believe when dignity, everybody's dignity is accorded to every human life, then it goes a very long way. When everyone is accorded dignity, everybody can effect change in their own little ways. So we are in this situation right now because dignity has been stripped off, the common mwananchi. And so my mom had a stroke in 2013, and I've been her caregiver for the longest time. And 2 years, she's been bedridden for 2 years now. And we used to go to hospitals. There are no like very little things like ramps, like lifts, old buildings. And we talk about change, we talk about very huge issues, police brutality, but there's no dignity even in the like very little levels. So also I'm very huge on like disability rights and gender mainstreaming. And I believe to change the world, we just need to accord each and every person the dignity they deserve. When you see like police met injustice, like police kill people on the streets, it's because the human life is not dignified in Kenya. Yeah.
Thank you for speaking on such broad issues, whether it's, you know, gender, dignity for disabled. I think that's really powerful of you. You've also taken your messages to different parts of the world.
Yes.
I'm curious to know how the global audience resonates, given that I feel like we're also going through like a global reckoning. So many countries are pushing back on injustices. So what kind of reception have you gotten from some of your performances abroad?
Amazing. So I've been doing like tours. I've done The Hague in Netherlands, Amsterdam. I've done Brussels, France, and people really resonate. But we have the injustice in the world. It has a different name, and everyone has their own problems in the world, and they have their own struggles. Like there's a piece I wrote, and it's to be submitted during the NATO summit, and there are words the editor wanted to remove from the piece because there's a statement I said, if the just God is love, then justice is what love thinks it is. And in the European context, the subject, God's subject, is very controversial, and they wanted to remove it. And I told them it's either the whole of it or none of it. So here we are struggling with Kasongo and Must Go, but they are struggling with their own issues, like concept of God and racism.
Can I read the entire, just the verse, not the entire poem?
Yeah.
Justice isn't just a word; it is a just word, one that comes before the word peace. The actual pick when you try to choose between this and that. If the just God is love, then justice is what love thinks it is. Justice is independence. The prefix into that word means none of it. The prefix into that word means none of it.
Yeah,
Just.
Injustice.
Injustice means none of it.
Yeah.
Yes, so they struggle with their own issues.
Yeah.
But there's no like a perfect setup. But so they really appreciate art. And you know, when we started art here in Kenya and arts for social change, people said, stop using arts as politics, because the young people have been really depoliticized and are made to believe that art is politics and good governance is a reserve for certain people. And that is why we have like hoodlums and rogue people who are elected as, you have to have a scandal to be accepted by the electorates. But right now, the young people, since 2024, we did not achieve the revolution by the bullet, but since like we started, we went to the streets and the clamor for change, we achieved the revolution of the mindset. And now we know better. We will only have a new generation of leaders when you have a new generation of voters, because now young people understand why they need to be very to be in it, to be vocal. Because when we started, I did Dear Mr. Deputy President when Ruto was a deputy president. And I got backlash, like from the people who are really close to me. They told me, you're just chasing clout. Stop. And I was arrested then. We did Wajinga Nyinyi with King Kaka in 2019. After he did that one, we released another one. And people told us, stop using arts for, art is art and politics
Stop politicizing
Stop politicizing the arts.
Look at us now.
But now, people appreciate now, and it's a good thing.
I know, when you think about it now.
Even the most basic understanding of art will tell you that it has always and will always be political. You will never separate art and politics. I want to have a look at some of your art. Looking at you on stage, let's have a listen in and just get a feel of what it is for Willie.
There's one piece that you did. Is it
performing.
Impossible?
Iposiku.
Iposiku. Okay. There we go. Iposiku. Let's have a listen in.
Kabla nife ningependa kuwaacha huru. Serikali ni ya giza na haitaki nuru. Hivyo wananchi lengo kuu ni kulipa ushuru. Mola asante kwa maisha, mimi nashukuru. Hivi nasema kweli hata natafuta mapenzi before nipate wai. Mistari ni si, rifaro level 5. Siasa inalipa wasanii wanasabai. Msaada na kuomba Mungu. Napiga goti, naitazama mbingu. Mola wasaidie waliovisha mbingu. Nyuma ya nondo, nipo kwa sanaa, siko kwenye game. Leta hiyo change, kana hiyo fame. Usingizi sina, ila nina dream. Shida zenyu zote mwazitengezea mimi. Twende, hatuogopi chochote, si tunasema ahe. Hatina ahe. Skiza, I'm there for the country, wako hapo juu ya family.
Ipo siku.
Ipo
what will
siku.
happen?
Ipo siku is from my new album, and it says kuna siku mayouth wataungana. Ipo siku imefika. So it speaks about like the youths coming together, the day of the reckoning day. And I wrote this piece in 2020, and 2024, June 25th, it happened, and it's happening on Wednesday.
It is happening.
So Ipo siku is when like people came together for a common cause, and right now people are united. I mean, there are different struggles. People have beef here and there, but when it comes to matters of national interest, like the young people come together. Ipo siku whereby people come together and crowdfund to push for a cause, to open up the civic space, to come through for Boniface karaoke. So Ipo siku when like people come together.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of foresight in your art.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I know later I'd like to hear.
Our guests today are prophets.
They really are prophetic. They see things, you say them, you're ahead of your time, you're persecuted for it until it happens. Later, I'd really like to hear how your writing may have shifted differently since June 25th. But right now, I'm just curious how you're able to, is it that you read the ground in a way that people don't? How are you able to think through Ipo siku, like there's a day we're going to do this? How do you see that far ahead? What is it that informs you being able to see that?
I think it's a gift. I always say we are prophets of a future, not our own. I don't know how I can do it, but artists can feel it. When the world is dark, you can feel it. When I go into a space, the energies, they speak. So when something is just about to happen, I can feel it. And I can feel things are not going right. Sometimes, and I believe everyone is an artist, sometimes people have that intuition, only that like poets can do that lyrically and they can voice it.
And
so
they can tap into it as well.
They can tap into it. But I wrote a piece, I performed the last performance I did in Amsterdam, that was June 10th. And the lyrics I wrote, when I posted it just before I came to Maandamano, and then it happened. And on that piece I say, maybe I can perform a part of that piece. It says, I live in a country where it is either you die in the house because of hunger or you're killed in the streets looking for a living. I live in a country where the police kill for a living. Because I am not a poet. My life is a poem. Because word is life and life is just a word, and that is how it goes. The day I stop speaking about the things that matter is when I start dying. So dear death, don't kill me yet, because if you do, my mama will cry. And if she cries now, that will kill me. Because I live in a country that kills its own citizens in a bid to collect more taxes. I live in a country where priests throw the weight of the world on the back of congregants. If that's not enough, they still hold more masses. I live in a country where the king is naked and lives in the glory of former past praises. I live in a country where young kids were killed outside parliament buildings over broken glasses. I live in a country where half of the population skips meals, tough economic times, BS, but a bullet never misses. I live in a country where moms don't have sons, not because they never had, but because they are missed. I live in a country where the state official address is only found under state official species. Too many beggars, but few horses for wishes. Because as a poet, my most powerful verses are in the words that are never said. Just like on June 25th, young people lost their lives trying to correct mistakes they never made.
Yeah. Wait. Okay.
Wow. That's the country that you live in.
Yep.
That's the country that we live in.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
When you tell such words,
Yeah.
so powerfully and so straight, do they land? I'd like to know whether you are received locally as well as you are received abroad. But let's take a break. Wow. In the studio is Willie Oeba. He's a spoken word artist. And you just heard what he does. Using creativity, spoken word for activism. That's what we've been discussing this morning. We'll be back in a moment. Let's also hear what you think about the work that he's done.
Tuma yo 0112-500-400.
Wow.
Utafika kwa basi. Very soon.
Tumeanza kuwa wengi. Naribu market.
Saturate market.
I wonder whether number 9 the poet is also from Nakuru.
Oh, Dan.
Dan,
Oh.
wapi? Dan, hebu tuambie kama
Oh,
umetoka
yeah,
Whether he's also from Nakuru.
Yeah, Dan is an OG.
yeye ni wa Kanairo.
Shout out to Dan,
Oh.
manze.
Yeye ni wa Kanairo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kanairo si mbali na Nakuru.
Yeah.
Simbali.
Ni hapa tu.
Yeah, but yeah, he also does his own, you know, like, fixing by rhymes meeting the prime. Rhymes meet prime.
Prime, yeah.
Yeah, so he does spoken word on just summarizing the news of the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful work that he does. Back to my question before the break. Oh, do you want to look at
No, I think,
some feedback?
yeah, some feedback here. Just people here. Big up, Willie. That's DJ CJ Kenya. David Mangena alikuwa amesema, I'm eager to hear him rap or do spoken word.
Wow.
He did so. Wajinga Nyinyi should be made our interim national anthem until the election date. There are many now in the... There's quite a number that can be the interim national anthem. A good historian can basically prophesy and predict the future because he or she is a watcher from the future, living in the present with solutions from the past. Wow. Kamau Washira. Very profound, very well said. Eric Gaku says, who's cutting onions? Willie Oeba, you are talented. Thank you for that piece. Amazing.
Thank you.
So a lot of people appreciating your work.
Thank you.
Eric, you're going to ask.
So you do this. You started just your spoken word journey just like that, and you've performed on stages locally and abroad.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your work and work of others, activism through creativity, is actually seeping into the Kenyan society beyond the urban areas and the social justice forums?
Yes. Now we're getting to indulge with the audience because arts for social change and spoken word and use of words for social change and just poetry at large was a secret society, and we started doing Maitatu civic education because we felt the message that we have, it needs to go to the people. And we used to perform at KNT, charge $15 or and other shows, and we used to get the same people. And one thing with poetry, it inspires other people to write poetry. So you would go to an audience and they are all poets. And now we started taking the word out to the people. And in 2022, we started doing the Matatu civic education. And because we do spoken word, we started just spreading out our message and using poetry for social change in matatus and in public spaces, in restaurants, but majorly matatus. We used to go to every route, from 2022 till now, in a bid to make people indulge into the art and understand the art, because people did not understand the concepts of metaphors and words and puns and all of that. So I have to give it to the audience. Very supportive, since 2024. And people have really opened up their hearts to the use of words and for social change. As Bambara said, the work of art is to make the resistance irresistible. And we've had very powerful music and protest songs and spoken word that have really inspired hope, because all these people know what they ought to do. They know what they need to do. I'm not saying anything new, but my work is to inspire hope, to set the conversation, what we're doing right now, and to set the agenda. That's all. So here in Kenya, now people have started indulging heavily into the arts, and people have supported that. Even when we do like civic education, I don't put my number out, sijui, send this. People find our numbers and send something, or people say, send your number. So there's been so much solidarity. Outside, they've been doing this for a long time. You go to like European countries, they have poet laureates, they have national poets. When something is, they recognize poetry, it is very well recognized, and there are structures, and they're remunerated vizuri kabisa, unlike Kenya. I'm from Nakuru.
It's allowed.
By
the way.
Remunerated, yeah. So, but so the love, the audience is really, like for example, I do arts for social change. It is very unlikely that I would ever get a government gig, corporate gig, or even sometimes the NGOs have been cancelled for different pieces that I did. Like for Dear Mr. Deputy President, I was cancelled. When I did Uhuru Maliza Uende, I was cancelled.
They're like, that's a bit too spicy for us.
Yes.
We like change, but
exactly.
not that.
How do they cancel you?
Not that much.
So you're not called for gigs. They cancel your gigs. I was told to remove that piece from YouTube by the people who supported me to release that piece, because during that time they were pushing for something else. So they were saying, you're doing good, we want this piece out, but this is not the time. So it's very convenient for them sometimes. Yeah. But the audience have really like held it down for me. So I've created a community, and that like financial autonomy for me is like creating a community, because I have my own merchandise, I kick my own shows, I stream my own pieces. So I can say what I want, where I want, because I know that the people hold me down. And also the people sometimes can decide, because from 2024 people have been walking on eggshells, so the people sometimes can decide to cancel you. But when you understand and you remember why you started, it has to keep you going, because the truth, they say, the truth hurts before it heals, so they will catch up.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That part about, even the Matatu series, I think it's what has probably gotten you now mainstream, right? Because spoken word is usually very niche, and some of these conversations only seem to happen to like some class of people. But this has gone viral organically. Everybody knows it. And one, it's incredibly hard. One of my mentors used to say, Mariam, if you want to really get good at like speaking in public, ingia matu anza kuhubiri watu. Let me tell you, I still have never managed to do it. So it's incredibly hard, and I recognize that. But when you talk about now having these people be your community, and especially from a financial perspective, it's so important, but incredibly hard, like you've said. On the other end, if you do go the NGO route, that comes with strings attached. What's the fix there?
The fix is always remember why you started, and if you have to, like, because they say art is power, soft power. And when you have power, people presume that you have more than you do. And you have to act in ways that will maintain that power. And ways that will maintain that power is consistency, because they say consistency is the only thing failure cannot keep up with. You have to go back to why you started doing what you do. So every time, even because money is good, sometimes you're given, like I said it earlier, just before I went to the Netherlands, I was to perform in Nairobi for the king, for the Dutch king. I was invited, but I declined. Not because people sent 22,650 petitions to the king. I have performed Truth to Power before, but the narrative around performing for the king at that time was just off. They just, like, it seemed that they just wanted to use poetry to exonerate what Ruto did in 2024, because they had other businesses that they were coming to do in Kenya. But if I was performing for the king in the Netherlands, then I would do that. I would speak truth to power anytime. I performed just before I went I went out in February. There was an event with the judiciary, and the Chief Justice was there, and I told her, at a Chief Justice and a cry for justice. And she told me after the event, that's true. So
she nodded.
She nodded. Even after the event, she came and told me, yeah, that's true. Keep on doing what you do. Because as we said, artists is power, and you have to remember why you started. For me, I was almost shot because of police brutality. I saw it firsthand. It's not rumors. And during that time, people were not amplifying. So right now, I would have been forgotten entirely.
True.
So if I put like the fame and everything on top of like what I do, then I'm not consistent. So I always remember why I started. I remember that moment when a gun was put on my head, and I go back. So even during that time, I was to be paid for performing, but I had to decline because the narrative around that time, it would serve the oppressors more than you. It wouldn't make any sense for me to perform for the king and tell him what happened, and he watched the news. And then 22,650 people sent petitions.
And said,
So
don't
Maybe
come.
you should have
He was
performed and
well
told
aware.
him, you should not be here. Your Majesty, you're in the wrong country.
You're in the wrong
Exactly.
place.
You should not be here.
Yeah.
You are not welcome here. To his face.
So, but the narrative would not serve to my interest. Like they would use that. So they posted photos after that, right? And how did it go?
Yeah.
So
those that went there.
Exactly. So the same Kenyan government will say, this guy dines with us. Yeah.
Even though he pushed back,
Exactly.
while there he still came. How do you choose who to collaborate with? Does it have to be people who also, there could be somebody who likes to talk about fun times, but they have power in numbers, or they're a friend of yours?
Yeah.
How do you choose how and when to collaborate? And also speaking a little bit to, is it Offended too?
I am offended. Yes.
Yes.
Collaborated with Nonini and Small Slithol. By the way, Small Slithol is one of the best rappers we've ever had. We have to give him his flowers. It's very good. It's very good. So it depends on energies. Like if our energies connect, then we can. I have a new album, and I'm having a track with Benzema. Benzema.
Karim.
No, Karim Benzema. The Kenyan Benzema. I'm having Nacha from Tanzania, Roma from Tanzania, and Stamina. So it is heavily pegged on the energy. When the energy is correct, it goes a long way. We can do everything, because I have had I use the same metrics to do collaborations with artists who rake like huge numbers, and then tunaanza kusumbuana video hapana sijui nini, and then it ends up Aitoki. And you know, art is very pure, it's very divine. It has to be, you have to be in your element. So it's about the energy and the message and the personality. So I also don't want to do pieces with people we don't share the same philosophies.
I get that. Artists are also students of history. When you look at how we're organizing, or moving towards change from June 2024, from June 25th, and the weeks leading up to that, what are we getting right? What are we getting wrong from your observations and your knowledge of history? Because I know you've read about how other people have done it.
Yeah. From the knowledge of history, what we are getting wrong is that we need to come together. And there's a piece I wrote, and I say, me and you, we are not saviors, we are not messiahs, we are ministers. We are not master builders, we are workers. We are prophets of a future not our own. So we need to do away with the savior mentality. Everyone can do what they can do in their own little spaces. I just do spoken word inside Matatus. And that is my part to play. There's no role that is bigger than the other. So we have people love saviors. They love like putting you up to a certain pedestal and look at you as a savior. Oh, we depend on you. And we have people now who want to take that And so there's no one coming to save us. And that is why you find when someone comes up, we have had so many saviors, like from June 2024.
Yeah.
And each and every one of them.
I'm going to flip to a page.
I'll show you which page you're
Yeah, you know which page I'm going for. I'll show you.
So we need to get rid of that savior mentality.
Yeah.
And that is why we have our nation is classist and both tribalist.
Mm-hmm.
That is why we have like Kamba Nation, it has their own savior, Luo Nation, their own savior. We don't need saviors. We don't need those people.
Mm-hmm.
We need people to effect change in their own little spaces, and then the world would be a better place.
How is that a mistake?
Yeah?
As a lesson from the past?
How is that
what in the past makes you say that, you know, this is a mistake that has been made in the past?
Yeah.
And this generation ought not repeat that mistake?
Because putting like people in sat at a pedestal and putting all your hope in certain person other than a cause can really deflate the movement and can really deflate the resolve. You've seen what the government has done from June 2024. They pick Eric. Eric is the savior right now. People look at him as a savior.
Right.
They throw in government bloggers at you. They throw in every money, discredit, and then now we take so much time again to build the momentum, and people say, everyone is getting co-opted by the government, everybody is getting co-opted, just because we are looking at people as saviors, and everyone needs to effect change. Like what people were doing kwa maandamano kwenda kuchukua ile, hiyo imetosha mtu kukuwa savior, mtu
kuchukua nini?
Kuchukua ile inaitwa nini?
Oh, ile canister.
No canister, ile kitu ya kuongea inaitwa nini?
Megaphone.
Kuongea, huyu ndio savior sasa. I think we need to stop joking, and everyone needs to pull from their sides. Online
but we need direction, Pia. That's like through and through.
Yeah.
Every person who's come here who has been revolutionary in their own space at their own time, they've said the one thing that you cannot get away from is the need to organize and to have structure and to have leadership and to have underlying principles.
Yes, we need leadership. That it doesn't mean that we need saviors. We don't have saviors. We need leadership. That is what we need. We don't need messiahs. We need ministers. And we don't need saviors. We need people to show us direction, and that's that. We need to stop looking at people as saviors.
Because saviors center themselves, I think, is what I'm understanding. A savior puts themselves like, I got you. But ministers and leaders say, what can we do?
What can we do?
Even though
exactly.
maybe I'm helping drive the agenda. That's a very good distinction to make, because a lot of people think they're ministers, but they are saviors, but they don't know it. And maybe I don't know what course is needed. Course correction to be like, Bilonenda, you need to come back here. As Wednesday approaches,
Wednesday is Wednesday. Ama umesema ni Wednesday. Watu wa Wednesday na wa Wednesday tunapatana. Unajua kwanza tunapatana hapa chini hapa chini.
Jumatano.
I'm just wondering, what message you have. And we're still talking about organizing. Do you think it's time that people move towards building a political movement, or are you like, no, this is what's important this year, and perhaps this is what could be important next year when we mark 2 years? How do you think we need to pace what needs to happen now and what needs to happen next year?
I mean, people need to start organizing, and I always say, if we win playing their game, then we have lost. We need a total overhaul. We need to dismantle the systems around, because if we have 2 or 3 people, look at the likes of Kina Jalas and Kina KJ. I mean, if we have 2 or 3 people, it doesn't make sense. We need a total overhaul from like the grassroots, the MCAs, the MPs, and everything. And what we achieved, by the way, in 2024 is that people understand now better. The mindset has been revolutionized, and now we have like young people who want to go for the seats. We have young people who are taking like 10 feet, 10 toes on the ground, going civic education in Machakos and everywhere. They want to be members of parliament, they want to be MCAs and president and all that. So we have started organizing, but now we need to dismantle the structures. And that is why we are coming out on Wednesday. And the message is very clear. We are coming out on Wednesday, June 25th, to mark 1 year. That is our independence. Since they tried to like shut our voices on the 25th of June. So we need political outfits, but right now, what we need right now is to dismantle the structures. We need the lines to be very clear, because now if we have political parties right now, the same young people will be co-opted, the same young people will be bought off, because they also say the motive ni to keep them poor so that they buy them cheap. So the odds don't favor us right now.
Yeah.
So we need, and the only message this government understands and this regime understands is protest. So we need to come out, 1 million people on Wednesday, out in the streets. So, and then after that we can talk about the outfits and everything. But right now we need to dismantle the structures because it doesn't favor us right now.
What message would you leave? What spoken word message would you want to leave people with for Wednesday?
Pesa ya kisima waliiba, and that's the damn truth. Sudden death is viewed kama spoiled votes. That's the sad truth. Hakuna food, shelter, mata clothing. That's the naked truth. Mayouth hawana fare kwenda job interview. Politician kenye na msumbua ni mafuta ya ndege. That's the plain truth. Life ain't easy. That's the hard truth. It's not about sagging. Drugs do not create my wasted youth. Inchi mashef hawezi afford ile food wana cook. Domoptician wanalipa hawezi atapiga look. Kill sin to see God atamtoe tithe aje ticket ya heaven and inunulie my mook. Kwa hii inchi, the youth ako one bullet away from being a hashtag. Talk is cheap. Fortunately, the citizens cannot buy that because wako $1 away from the poverty line. IBC ndo kuna price tag. Our moms wako one demolition away from kulala njaa to kulala nje. Uyo makanga ko only one police stop away from kulose another finje. There's nothing to smile about when I know I am one gunshot away from being a statistic. Na degree ni makaratasi tu. Now to put food on my mama's table, true poetry, I have to be sarcastic. Nasema Kenya, life ni short na siongelei kinyasa. Na akaunti ya mwananchi ni empty kama promises za mwanasiasa. Akaunti ya mwananchi ni empty kama akili ya mwanasiasa. The president is talented in the art ya contempt of court. Well, the law is very clear. His conscience is not. Jesus alibetrayiwa na kiss. Na nyi wananchi mko hapo mnajichocha juu mulipewa hug. Wajinga nyinyi. Mtokee Wednesday bana.
Ndio hiyo.
Really? Alifanya hiyo kitu ya kwenda. Turn on that last bit.
Ndio hiyo. Really? Ndio hiyo. And keep doing a lot more.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank
because
you.
it pierces right into the heart.
Asante.
Even those that listened to the previous one, saying, almost brought me to tears. That's what Patrick had said.
And thank you for the great work that you're doing, because we need to have these conversations, and it starts here. Other than getting political outfits, and we need to, because we cannot be where we cannot see. We need to start this conversation. We need to identify the problem to solve the problem. And the idea, as Tupac said, the idea is not to change the world, but to spark the mind that will change the world, because true leadership is in delegation. So a political outfit is a short-term solution, but the revolution of the mindset is a long-term solution. Even if we have a political outfit, but the mindset of a common voter, of a young Gen Z, is not revolutionized. Even if they come out on Wednesday and the mindset is not revolutionized, then nothing changes. But if the mindset is revolutionized, then even the next generation will pick that up.
That is
so let's
very
keep the
well
conversation flowing and fixing the nation.
It's about opening up our mindset. Reminds me, on Saturday I met somebody just walking, and then these two people stopped me, one after another. One was this middle-aged Asian man. Eric, keep doing what you guys are doing. Say hello to the ladies. You're doing well. And then the person behind him stopped, and I said, I've also stopped just so I can shake your hand. I work in the Defense Forces, and let me tell you, our problem is we the people. He said, kama ukiona mzee kobe juu ya mti, na hiyo mzee kobe inakojoa na kupup kwa watu hapa chini, utauliza nani swali? Utauliza mzee kobe swali, ama utauliza ule mtu aliyeka hiyo mzee kobe juu ya mti?
Enough said.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Really, thank you.
Willie Weber, our guest. In the next hour, we speak to Gitobwe Manyara, who is a publisher. Today, it's about that.
Right, the three of them.
Yeah.
Power of the pen.
Keep it here for that.
Okay.